This is the lick. Let me give you a bit of context into this track section. Hey guys, in today's video we're gonna dive deep into the Grove bass library and see how you can come up with extremely realistic bass tracks, even with the use of slap, slides and other cool things. Let's get straight into it. So let me show you this slap lick that I come up with, and I'll show you a few ways you can make this sound as realistic as possible, and you definitely have all the tools available in this library to make just the most realistic results you can think of, just because you have the chance to actually control, first of all the articulations a bass player would actually use, but also some extra features like forcing particular strings or choosing the position in which to play your phrases. So that's very unique, I think, and it really helps you coming up with very realistic results. So let me show you this slap lick that I came up with. And I'm just a dumb guitar player. I don't play bass, so I tried my best to come up with something that's actually playable and realistic. And the cool thing is that you can actually get that result very easily with this library. Yeah, let's see. So this is the lick. Let me give you a bit of context into this track. So we're coming from a kind of an ambience section. So this, what we're working with, and let's go back to this slap lick. So as you can see, the way I'm kind of trying to control the fingering of this used in this lick, I'm using the position knob here, and there's an automation here that's basically controlling, it's shifting basically the position in which you're playing, the lick. There's also another way you can control this, as in that's by using the 4-string key switches. I think you get exactly the same results. Probably the position knob with the automation, at least in Ableton, since it's very easy to do these kind of automations in Ableton, it's probably quicker, but you can definitely dive more, even more specific into exactly what string to use for each note basically that you have. And then obviously we're using all the key switches here for triggering the the various articulations. So we're not gonna dive too deep into how to come up with a lick like this on bass, since again I'm not really a bass player, so that's not what this video is going to be about. In general, you obviously want to think of how a bass player would play this on the bass, so just make sure you're alternating between slap and pop, which is the thumb articulation, and then the pop, which would be with your index finger, I guess. And then obviously you have the ghost slap, so the strings muted, and the ghost pop, so that's also very cool. But again, we're not gonna talk too much about that. Instead, I want to talk about how you can control the fingering and the position in which you're playing this, to make sure it's actually realistic and achievable on a real bass. So for instance, since you have a hammer-on here, you really want to make sure you're playing these two notes on the same string, right? And that, I think, wouldn't happen if you just by default, or at least it would happen in a position that wouldn't really make sense for the rest of the lick. Like if I bypass this automation, you'll see that kind of jumping around in weird places, so it's making it kind of weird to play, and therefore less realistic, because that's not how a bass player would play it, right? So yeah, try to figure out how that would be played on a bass, and it's fairly similar coming from a guitarist perspective, since we the structure of notes on the fretboard and strings are pretty much the same, so you can kind of easily think about how would it be possible to play this on bass, and kind of go from there. And then you just automate basically the position knob to figure out what's the best way, like to match basically what you would play on the fretboard. And that was pretty much how I worked with the library. And then for the rest, I'm just making sure each note is played exactly on the string that I want. The really cool thing about this plugin is that each string actually sounds very different from the other, just like a real bass. And that I think is very cool, and allows you for some even more realistic results. So yeah, obviously you can use the fourth string for this, to achieve the exact same results. Here, I think it was just easier for me to just move the position around so that each note is played pretty much on the same string. You kind of want to do that to even out the bass tone even more, just because again each string is going to sound very different from the other. If you play on the same string, usually you'll maintain a more even tone and a more even bass performance. So that's usually even here I'm making everything on the same string. Yeah, again, as you can see, even more position automation. Again, try to match basically how you would play that on the fretboard. I think I figured out the licks on the guitar, and then I just trying to think as a bass player, I guess, and then went to the library and put the exact same fingering I would use, or I think it would make sense on the library itself. And again, that's honestly a very unique feature of this library that I haven't really seen anywhere else, really. Just the ability to select specific strings or specific portions of the fretboard to play. That's really unique, and it's very cool to have as an expressive tool. So yeah, that's very cool. The other thing we can talk about is definitely the the bass tone. It's very easy to achieve, honestly. You just have these very easy sliders that you can tweak, and it sounds good, honestly, right off the bat. You don't have to tweak a lot, and as you can see, I don't have any other plugins here on the track, so the whole bass tone is coming just off of this library. No other processing needed, so that's also very cool. It keeps your session light, and it keeps you going fast when you write, which is very important. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've done the same thing pretty much for the other bass part in the track, which I'll show you. So again, same thing. I'm just automating the position knob to again match the fingering that I would use on bass, and making sure I have each note exactly on the string that I want it to be. Like in this part, for instance. If you play this without the automation, just doesn't make sense. It's playing everything on the same string, and it's jumping way too much across the fretboard, and it's just not possible for a human being to play this. Like there's a 10 fret gap from each note. That's just not the way it's supposed to sound, and you can hear that it sounds quite fake, right? Quite robotic compared to how a bass player would actually play this. We have like this minor 9 arpeggio. That's most likely the shape that a guitar player or a bass player would use. And I think I've used the slide here, so the slide key switch, to make it even more realistic. So you slide into the ninth, basically, of the arpeggio, and that's very cool. I think that's, again, very unique to this library, to be able to control this much out of your bass performance. So yeah, anyway guys, I think that's pretty much it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you have any more questions. Obviously, we're just scratching the surface of the possibilities that this library actually has, and I'll leave it up to you to discover every possible way you can tweak and control each part of your bass tracks. And again, I'm very happy that we have the chance as some guitar players to control this much out of a MIDI bass track. So that really helps you a lot with your demos, with your tracks, with your productions. So that's very cool. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me for today, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.